And in a way, we got lucky. It's ideal, but it's not necessarily the way we would recommend others do it. So I just want to tell this story for a couple reasons, because if I can communicate this well and you can understand it, then I believe it will be valuable to you. And it gives an interesting point of view that we can all learn from. So we're going to talk about a couple aspects here, but the main point is branding, corporate identity, your visual identity, which leads towards your messaging and your offer. In our case, Riley Seberg and I started talking about this about starting our company together in the middle of 2018. So a quick timeline of events. The beginning of 2018, I just quit. I was still a roofing contractor. We were very busy with roofing. In 2017, I was working for a commercial property investor where I ran an apartment complex, ran the business, and I was in charge of the renovation, so the capital expenditures, of the capital improvement expenditures. So I did that for 6 months in Tallahassee in 2017. That was an awesome experience. I learned a ton. My mentor and the business owner, we're still in touch, and he's a great guy. He's super interesting, super smart. He's built a company that's worth $50 million in the last, decade about. So I finished that up, and I quit that job because it was just, I realized I wasn't just gonna chase money, and I realized that for me to be fulfilled, I needed to be doing something I loved. But I didn't know what that was yet, so I built the race team, which we built the rally car, and I started the company called HammerSport Racing. Soon after that, and I made that decision, and we pulled that trigger, and we began, building the car and figuring out how to compete in that space. I got together with Riley, and I realized through the racing, and I kind of knew this before racing, but racing is a test in marketing, because you're not going to bring in any money in with a race team winning races. It needs to be done through sponsorships and through bringing value to other, sorry, I'm going to start looking right there. I was looking at myself. Bringing value to other companies, i.e., hey, we'll represent you on our race car and we'll market for you, and we're going to build a system that brings you new clients. So that's value, and then they can exchange for that with us. So I knew it would be a test in marketing. As things progressed, I decided, okay, marketing is what I really want to do, because that's where I can affect the world, I can change the world, and I can bring enough value out to the marketplace doing marketing, and where I didn't feel that I was going to get there with racing enough to stay fulfilled for myself. So I called Riley, we made a deal, we decided, yes, let's do this. And so I at that point was starting to do market research and say, okay, what are we going to call this thing? How are we going to do this? What's our identity? I began that process right there. And so, not doing it nearly as well as our partner, Lawrence, who we spoke with today, and he's been working on this project with us for about a month now. But having some of the logic necessary to kind of analyze that situation, I came to the conclusion that I don't know enough about where we're going within the big, broad space of digital marketing to say, this is how I identify Riley and I in a certain enough manner to say, let's take this identity and build on it a visual identity, a logo, and a name. All of those things are very important, but if you build those before you get there, by the time you get there, you'll need to redo those. And so I didn't want to get hung up on starting the company and building this thing and figuring out how we're gonna be, what our value proposition in this space is. So I instead went with the name HammerSport so that we could go with everything else. Fast forward a year, and Riley and I have done some work. We've had clients. We've made a lot of mistakes. We figured out what we don't want to do, and we figured out what we do want to do. Riley moves really fast, which I love. The problem with moving fast is he's on to the next subject before I even figure out how to sell the one he just figured out. And so, that's been a problem that we have. We're continually working through that problem. And so now we're kind of to that point of like, okay, now we have some offers and we have some other things. And that's when I thought, okay, we're so much more developed now. We know who we are. We know what our strengths are. We know what we can do, what we want to do, what we can't do. So now we're prepared to build this identity. And we have an identity. Now we're prepared to bring that identity forward in a visual way using colors, typeset, and logo, shapes, designs, the visual part of branding and identity. It also allowed us to think about who we want to be using words, so we were able to have the discussion as a group about who we are and what word or phrase communicates that in a way that we appreciate and we think our future clientele will appreciate. So in other words, we came up with a new name to rebrand under. So the whole point of this is literally just to talk about how important these things are, identity, branding, but how they can't be rushed. And in our opinion, it's a never-ending process that you just get better and better and better at as you solve problems, take those solutions to the marketplace, find that your idea is not valid, your solution is rejected, and you continually evolve and reevaluate how you're solving problems. You are also learning more about your identity and your brand, and therefore being able to communicate it better. And as you communicate it better, you are left with the information necessary to build a stronger brand and a stronger identity. So that's my point of view. We got lucky because I have a different career in business that can keep us afloat, so we don't have to rush into creating revenue in ways that we don't want to do it. So we're super fortunate, but not everybody has that luxury. In fact, most business startups are probably not going to have that luxury. But on the other hand, if you look at a tech startup or a new idea in business that has capital funding, how do they do it? Do they just come up with a name and then build out their products or services, or do they build out their products and services and then come up with their name, their brand, their identity, and their logo? So, not that there's a right way or a wrong way, but there certainly is an ideal way, or one that makes the discussion easier to have. So that's all I have for today. I hope in some aspect, in some part of this entire conversation, that was helpful. For me it is, because it lets me clarify my thought process to explain this concept even better. And I know that that's something that I'm always going to keep working on. To me, marketing is communication. The better we communicate, the better we market. Thanks for this opportunity. I hope it helps. Have a great day.